It's great to see both of you on Zoom as usual. And I will just say that congrats on the movie. For both of you, I've spoken to a lot of actors and they talk about when they are nervous about a role, that's when they gravitate towards it. They want to, that they want to do it. Is it the same for both of you? I mean, because I would imagine this project is so different than anything else you've read.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I can speak for both of us when I say that, like, there's nothing more exciting than the feeling of almost like, can I do this? Like, can I really do this? Am I, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's nothing more exciting than something that poses a real challenge, and a challenge that you've like never been faced with before. And this was definitely that for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you get really inspired by the challenge,
Mm.
and all the possibilities of it. Yeah, are what kind of drew us both to it, I think.
I'm a big fan of Terry Notary, and I know you guys worked with him. I would imagine that talk a little bit about working with him, and did he sort of give you that confidence of really just going for it?
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think what I really didn't expect about, I mean, I was really excited about the prospect of working with Terry as well. I'm a huge fan of his work, and I just think he's like, so insanely talented in a very kind of unique way that's so specific to him. And I think what I wasn't expecting, about the working with Terry is just how emotional that it would be, and how much it would help me in my emotional connection to the character, as well as just like getting the physical, animal stuff down. It really helped me connect to her emotional side, and feel free, in my funneling my own emotion into that. And I was surprised at how much I cried, during the work sessions with him, because it just gets you to this place where you're, I don't know, it's like almost like a zen, like it's almost like a meditative state where you just feel very connected to your body and your emotions, and you are so free of like any sort of judgment towards yourself, and almost like free of, thought, and like you're kind of just like letting whatever happens happen. And that was a very kind of precious state to find myself in, and a really cool place to like create from, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Terry was profound, like the work that he does, and as well his scene from the square is like, that's a shining example of when someone commits to a choice and how affecting it is, like especially when it's something kind of out there. Um, but yeah, and like Lily said, there was so much of the subtleties that Terry unlocked were the things that were kind of massive for the characters. Like this, just a simple thing that before we found the individual animals, it was like, okay, well, what is wild? What is most natural? And therefore, that's a step away from what is being human. And we found that kind of humanity is thought. It's all the thoughts that we have and all the voices that kind of like dictate your movements or judge or kind of commenting on yourself all the time. And to be without that was kind of it's such a simple discovery, but such a profound discovery into the understanding of someone who identifies as, or who is an animal, but just in the body of a man.
The first scene where you guys meet is really cool. There's no dialogue. It's you guys as your animals, discovering each other. I would imagine, talk a little bit about filming that scene, because I don't know how that can be scripted. I would imagine that must be found in the rehearsal process and maybe a little bit on set.
Yeah, I mean, that one was a really special one. And we spoke a little bit about this earlier, but it was like, that scene kind of became the basis for a lot of our exploration of our character's dynamic, because we kind of used it in like to do all these animal improvs together. And it took on a lot of, like, it went through a lot of different forms before it became like what's on screen. And so that was kind of like, yeah, served as our kind of like playground for finding, how these characters interact as animals, which is in the place that we meet them in the movie, that's where they feel the most themselves. That's where they feel the most comfortable and the most free and the most connected to themselves, and so to each other. And so it was really important to kind of find that dynamic within that movement. And shooting it almost, I feel like, became this sort of like this sort of like ballet almost. We were like kind of like describing it like that.
Yeah, it's that again. That's one of my favorite scenes in the film to do, and in the final piece as well. And as Lily said, it became, because it is so. It was choreographed, but to find that choreography that we then sort of improvised a little in the doing of it, there's you know, the journey of rehearsing that, you go through, as Lily said, all the different dynamics of the character. Like, what if we play with this part of like kind of their dynamic, or what if we sort of make it more, if it's a sort of sensual energy, or what if it's a more of a kind of playful energy, and just sort of exploring those over time. Kind of, you know, we found things that if we didn't use it in that moment, definitely kind of then got used at another place within the story.
I know you guys were getting ready to film and then COVID struck, and then you had months of downtime before you started shooting. I would imagine that, what is that like as an actor, building up to that moment where you're going to do a role like this, and then, okay, now let's just pause and spend a bunch of time thinking about it until we may or may not be doing it?
Well, yeah, there was an interesting, and I was saying this earlier, but there was an interesting kind of parallel where, I mean, first of all, you know, it was an opportunity to just keep prepping and keep practicing. And I think, you know, that can, you know, as much as like there were a lot of obviously negative parts of that period of time, that, you know, that's can never be a bad thing, is having more time to, you know, delve deeper into the exploration of your character and your prep time. You know, that's never going to be time wasted. And I think there was an also like a strange parallel with how we were all like locked in our houses, and there was like a growing almost like fear of the outside world, and like feeling like it was dangerous out there, and we were like scared to go outside and everything. That was paralleled with, I think, how the characters feel, how a lot of the characters feel in the story, and specifically my character, because she's been there for so long and she's so sheltered, and this clinic is kind of the only world that she knows, and she like is very scared of the outside world and doesn't really have the tools to survive out there. And so I think there was like an interesting parallel there as well.
I think as well, just the physical side of things as well, is that there was going to be, that we had a week's kind of workshopping to begin to find the animals. Then we were going to have 2 weeks off. Then we were going to come together as a company and do 3 weeks rehearsal and then shoot the film. And it was in that 2 weeks that the kind of respective lockdowns happened and the film got pushed. But that said, like what we found in that first week, I don't know if we could have done it in the same way, having had a fortnight of practice, because the sort of 2.5 months that came in between, to crawl every day, and for suddenly, like, it's so important, especially for Jacob as well, that he feels most comfortable on all fours. And it's just in a kind of, literally, to have not had your body been in that position ever before, it took the time to kind of like, you know, to get the muscle memory to feel good in that place.
I got to stop there. I'm just going to say, seriously, I thought you both did such a great job in this. I wish you nothing but the best, and good luck with the rest of your speed dating.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Have
Nice
a good
to
rest
see
of
you.
your day.